Welcome to another session of Build Your Own Virtual Stage Summit. My name is Ana Andrea and I'm your host. And today I have a special treat for you. This session is going to help you create the content that you want for your virtual event so that the experience of the audience is memorable and uncanny and they never forget you. Today I have a speaker. She is a professional that helps with speaking skills that create mic drop worthy moments through an online group coaching program called Privilege. So her name is Sherhara, and thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. Hey, everybody.
Hi. So tell us, how did you get started in business in general?
Yeah, it just kind of I think sometimes we find ourselves in jobs and then you don't even realize that it's going to turn into something grand. But I've always been a live host and MC, whether, it was high school, reading the announcements in the morning for all my classmates, or even in college, just hosting all of these social events that were going on. But after I graduated, got connected with some great companies, and I started doing a live event work for the business to consumer side. Then one day I got busy, and then they said, "We need you." And I said, "I'm busy." And then I said, "But whoever you hire to take my place, I can train them." So that's how I transitioned kind of the talent space into the skill space and started training. So when it comes to live MC work, hosting, moderating, facilitating, and just public speaking in general, that's really how I got my start. So ever since then, the companies were like, "Sure, yeah, I'll hire you. You can teach my people." And I'm like, "Oh yeah?" I said, "Okay." And so I grew the skill from there and the teaching space. And now I've just recently, about a year ago, launched Privilege, which is for consumers, right? This is not B2B. This is now B2C. I'm working with individuals, thought leaders, business experts, business leaders. And so really working with people to make sure that they are memorable, make sure that their speaking skills match their experience and their expertise, and really just their overall excellence. So that's a little short story.
I love that. And I know that a lot of people actually are super scared of public speaking. Like they would rather die. Literally, I've seen the statistics. How do we help them be at ease? Because making a virtual event, being your own host or MC, it actually could create a lot of anxiety.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that if you're one of those people that would rather die than public speak, then if you want your event to be successful, hire a host. Okay, just hire somebody else. You don't have to do it if that's not your forte. Especially if you want your event to be successful. If you're one of those people who would rather die than public speak, then I would say it's time to get some support. It's time to get some help. It's time to find time to practice in arenas where it's not, to your bottom line, right? Don't let the first time that you have to host an event, do some public speaking, be when you're hosting your event. Understand yourself. Now, if you're one of those people where you do your Facebook Lives, you do your Instagram Lives, you are familiar with talking to camera, you are familiar with talking in front of audiences, but you just feel like you're not nailing it, or you just feel like I'm not leaving it all on the table, then you're kind of like the person who would rather die. It's now time for you to be intentional. It's time for you to identify the spaces in which you feel like there's a gap between you and your most awesome you. And you need to create more spaces so that it's not necessarily just about doing work and business as usual, because then you get focused and caught up on making the sale, engaging your audience, pushing them to wherever link you want them to press on. But instead, give yourself safe spaces that when you show up and you start speaking, you can actually say, "No, this is about me shining. This is about me showing up. This is about me and my personality coming through." And so you do need to carve out specific spaces so that you can just, what do they call that? Practice.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I tell people like, "Anna, you're so good at video," they tell me. And I'm like, have you seen my first YouTube video?
Yeah.
I suck Completely. I was reading. That was terrible. So that actually brings me to the first question regarding events specifically. There's different types of positions where we can show up, like you said, right? So let's talk about what it actually means to be a host.
Yeah. And so when I first say host, and if you know that you are hosting the event, your sole focus, and this is why you may want to just hire a host, but your sole focus is really just moving your viewers through the experience. It's like you are giving them a tour of this event. Ladies, we've made it to the beginning. This is what we're doing. You're letting them know this is how the event is going to flow. This is what you're going to expect. This is what we want you to think. How are you feeling? How are you doing? I would say that if you're a host, think of yourself more as a tour guide. If you've ever been on a tour and they say, hey, and to your left, you see this, and to your right, you see this, and coming up next on the stage, and this person is, right? You as a host are literally guiding them through the experience you want them to have at your event. How do you want them to feel? Do you want them to feel inspired? Do you want them to feel moved? Do you want to pick up their energy? Do you want them to say, you know what, this is a very serious moment. Let's bring it down a little bit. So when you start to think about hosting an event, it is time to now think about how are you, think about all the people who are watching, all the people who are listening, almost think of them as like a cattle of people, a herd of, I don't want to call people cows, but they don't know where they're supposed to be going through this experience. They don't know, you have to show them, teach them how they should be showing up at this event. So really, if you're thinking about hosting and you want to change the way that you feel about hosting, know that it is not about you, but it is about guiding the people through an experience. And what are you going to highlight for them to notice about the experience? How are you going to introduce people so that they can remember your guests at the event? How are you going to get them to interact with one another so that you can create those experiences? What are the bottom line things that they need to do? Do they need to retweet? Do they need to hashtag? Do they need to take notes? Do they need to call a friend? Do they need to, do a picture and then share it on their social media? How do you want to direct your crowd? So as a host, you're kind of a conductor for your audience, but then also you're working with the event producer to say, hey, are we good on time? Hey, do we need to stall? Hey, do we need to switch things around? Hey, is this where the commercial goes? Okay, is this where we take the bio break? Okay, so you're helping to make sure that the event runs smoothly. And you're really thinking about your audience and the experience that they have.
Yes. So basically being a host, it's like being a flight attendant too, right? Like showing them like what to do, where to go.
Yep.
And what is though the difference between the host and an MC or a moderating and facilitating?
Yeah, so host and MC kind of are interchangeable. MC typically is in the same way. You usually say MC when it's a little bit more formal, event-wise. When you hear about a host, it's typically associated with maybe more like television, like a game show host. But you can see, how does a game show host actually host? They guide them through the game. They tell them what they should be doing. They get the audience's participation. So when you think about a host and an MC, they're essentially, the same thing. There's in hip hop culture, MC is EMCEE, right? Yeah. But it's actually short for M as in mother, C as in cat, MC, which is master of ceremony or mistress of ceremony. So that title, and when you say master of ceremony, ceremony is our steps. Ceremony is a process. ceremony is a ritual, so to speak. So the master of that ceremony, that ritual, that process, that's the person that's guiding you through it, which again is exactly what I said a host is.
Okay.
Yeah. And what was the other one that you said? You said MC.
The difference between moderating, right? Because it sounds similar.
Right. So now it's time to put a moderator hat on, right? And let's say you're like, so for example, right now, Anna, you're interviewing me, right? This is it. This is kind of like an interview. You and me kind of having a conversation. You're asking me questions that you know your audience may want to know the answers to. You know, think Oprah, right? Oprah has always been interviewing people. Now, moderating is a little bit different because when you're a moderator, it's typically when you have more people on the stage, right? So if you have a panel, if it's a discussion, if it's a debate, you've got, 2 or more people that are going to be talking, and you have to kind of be the traffic conductor. Nope. All right, your time to talk. Okay, now your time to talk. Okay, now your time to talk. It's a person whose role is to act as a neutral participant, someone who, keeps the time, considers the flow. Jim is talking too much. Nancy hasn't talked. I'm going to address this next question to Nancy because you know that Jim been talking all the time, So as a moderator, you're taking in just a little bit more. It's like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You want an equal amount of peanut butter and an equal amount of jelly based off of the people who you've invited to speak. As a moderator, it's less about you, not about your opinion, not about, let me answer that question because I think I know what I'm talking about. No, moderator. If you wanted to share your opinion, then you should have just been on the panel, right? The moderator may perhaps connect the dots. The moderator will take one question and then turn it into another question. The moderator will consider what the audience wants to know and what they want to hear. And then as the moderator, you ask the questions of the people who are going to provide the answer that the audience wants to hear. So you're really a conductor. Audience, what do you want to know? You think about the audience. Nancy can answer that. You know what, Jim, you can answer that. You know what, both of you answer that, Okay. And then if you're taking questions from the audience, then you have to kind of orchestrate the people. So moderating is really about just kind of directing the flow of conversation amongst more than 2 people. If it's just you interviewing one person, it's an interview. It's a conversation. But when there's more people on the stage, otherwise it'll be calamity. You have one person who takes over the conversation. Somebody else is like, well, why did I even show up here if I'm not going to have an opportunity to talk? And the people on the panel can't be responsible. Hey, Jim, you've been talking too much. Let me say something, right? So the moderator plays the role of basically controlling the pace of conversation amongst 2 or more people.
Okay, so basically if we're doing our own virtual stage, right? And we're putting on all the hats. When we have a panel, we have to put in the hat of moderator to make sure that everything flows and the content is created, seamlessly. Even if it's online. So this is the person also that looks at the questions and in the chat and goes back and asks them to the panel, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So what does a good host is like, and what is a good moderator? Like, when is it like good and when is it like, oh my God, they're terrible?
I would say that if you play it safe, and you just remember it is not about you, then you're probably going to do a good job, right? You want to show personality. You want to have fun. I would say you're in it with the audience. You're just the one kind of speaking on behalf of the audience, So for the event, y'all, we got something good coming up. Y'all don't know it, but I'm about to clue you in. Hey, y'all, we got a 5-minute bio break. Does anybody need some coffee? Yeah, me too. So there's personality that comes through it, but this is not a monologue. If you're an actress, this is not about you showing off all your best skill sets. This is not about you giving your soliloquy, and it's challenging because, and as you said, like, all of y'all are hosting these events. Like, this is your event, so this is your bread and butter, right? But I think that there's a certain space of credibility that comes. They know that you put this on. They know that you are the director and the producer. They know that you're orchestrating all the things that are happening on the back end. All you have to do is just make sure that you're pointing people in the right direction, that you're guiding people through the process. That you want Jim to contribute his expertise and you want Nancy to contribute hers. Show up in a way that you support them so that they have an opportunity to do that. That your audience wants to know how to be a better host. So ask the questions that will really give them some, hardcore, tactical, practical things that they can do. And so being a good host, being a good moderator, being a good interviewer is thinking about your guests. Mm-hmm. When you host something at your house for the holidays, hey, Jim, you need another drink? I gotcha. Nancy, you want some dessert? Cool. Hey, Bill, are you hot? Let me take care of the temperature for you. You want to sit down? Let me get you another seat. Kids, get out of here. Go upstairs. Right?
Right.
That's hosting. And that happens in your home. Consider that at your event.
That's a great example. If you're a bad host at home, start practicing there.
Right. You're absolutely right. I've never used that analogy, but you can practice hosting in your own home, in the holidays, right? On the holidays when you've got people showing up, people leaving, people needing this. Where do I put my coats? I brought this cranberry sauce. Where should I put it? You got people in the kitchen cooking, trying to finish up the dressing, and you're trying to get all of this done by 7:00. We're supposed to be sitting at the dinner table, right?
It's an event. It's a complete event.
It's an event. So practice at home, y'all. On a Friday.
I thought about this because when my best friends come to visit me, I'm like, this is your house. Go serve yourself if you want something.
But that's true, because that's a direction that you give permission to people. You have to show people how they're going to show up. Exactly. Sometimes it could be something simple like, okay, y'all, this is going to be recorded. So if you have to get up and go to the bathroom or a package just came in, put your camera, turn your camera off, mute your computer, go do what you got to do, and then come back. Because then people feel like, oh, I don't have to wait for a bio break. I don't have to do this. I don't have to do that. So you're giving permission for people on how to show up.
That's really good. Yes, because sometimes we forget that the camera is on. I've heard stories. They've been on the news.
Yeah.
I mean, whoa. So yeah, that actually is really helpful because when we're hosting and we're doing pre-recorded, let's say we're doing pre-recorded and we're doing the interviews, some of the event hosts, let's call them, don't let the speaker talk or interrupt them too much. Or I know it's terrible. But I've been to events where they let the speakers shine, and obviously way better events.
Yeah. And it's the thing, it's just kind of like, and it's annoying for the people who are sitting in the audience. Like, as the host, you're kind of the constant. You're the one person that they're going to see all day. So you don't have to talk a whole lot, because over the course of the day, they're going to see you because you've introduced, you've transitioned, you've moderated questions, you're giving announcements, you're telling people to take a break. They're going to know who you are by the end of it. They're going to be able to feel who you are. Like, you don't have to worry about like giving all your extra and like, this is the moment where you don't need to necessarily promote yourself. Right. And I think honestly, that's an aspect of grace, and it's an aspect of class when you're hosting. And I think people appreciate it a whole lot more. Like, when I host events, yes, I want people to walk away and say, oh my gosh, she was amazing. Oh my gosh, she was a great host. But I also want them to know that if she wasn't hosting, this event may not have been as fun. Right. Not because I was like, hey, look at me, I'm the fun, but because I facilitated the fun. You know, I pointed you into the places where you're supposed to enjoy.
Yes, because sometimes people even forget to enjoy. Yeah. That's sad.
Yeah.
You and I don't have that problem. You and I don't have that problem. No, but I know that some people do. So I gotta say it. So, okay, so that makes a good host. And the opposite is obviously what makes a worse host, right? Somebody that doesn't tell them what to do and it's all about them. Now, how do we, separate ourselves from being the host and being the salesperson and being the creator and all that? How do we do this without sounding salesy, without this being a webinar? How do we create that ambience? I think it's a word. Environment.
To create the ambiance, right? To kind of create the experience. You know, I would also, and I've kind of said this, and this wasn't going, I'm gonna tell you right now, this wasn't gonna be my original point, but having a good host that is just a designated host allows you to do what you do best. So if you want to host, fine, but know that it's gonna be a little bit more, it's gonna take a little bit more finesse to integrate all of those different roles. So if you've never considered just hiring a host who just hosts, and then you can sit and watch the panels. You can sit and be producer in the back. You can prep the next speaker. You can poll your audience in the chat. You can be an active participant alongside your viewers. You know, I think that that's extremely valuable because you can open it up with a keynote. You can come in the middle and you could come in and just say, I'm just going to interview this one guest, and then go back to the sidelines. But if you have a designated host, they could be the ones to run the show. And then you could be giving them notes. Make sure you say this, don't forget about that. We just got a new announcement for don't forget to mention the sponsor, you know, and then you can sit back and then watch everything so that you can really see how you can improve it the next time. So that's what I would say first and foremost. And then when it's time for you to sell, when it's time for you to make your offer, when it's time for you to talk directly to your participants, then the host says, all right, now we're going to bring up Anna. Anna has a message. I think she's got a special gift for y'all. If this is the moment y'all been waiting for. And then the host hypes you up. Host makes you look good. And then you come in like, hey, hi, everyone. And then you could do your thing the way that you normally do your thing, right? So I would say if you've never thought about just getting a designated host, someone who's going to move your program along, who knows step by step where you want to take things, then consider that maybe for your next for your next event. Now, if you're going to do it all, I would, in the preparation and the planning of your event, place your pitches. Place your pitches. You don't need to be pitching all throughout. Maybe the pitch only comes at the end. Maybe the pitch comes at the lunch break. Just place your pitches. If you're wanting to point them to a link, if you're wanting to get them to buy, if you're wanting to get them to sign up, if you're wanting to get them to make a commitment, you ain't got to do it all day. Okay, y'all? They know what they showing up here for. They know they're going to get something, you know? And place your pitches so that it feels like a commercial almost, or it feels like this is a designated time. And it doesn't have to be so black and white or cut and dry. You know, you don't have to say, all right, now I'm going to pitch you something because here's my commercial. But you can say, all right, y'all, here's a moment. This is how I want to show up and serve you. You know, I've developed this. I've been doing this. You make it a story, you know, however you do your sales, you know. But if you're hosting and you know that you're introducing people, opening up things, interviewing folks, moderating a panel, you know, if you're doing all of that, but you don't want to sound salesy throughout, create moments where you know you're just a host, and then create moments where you know that you're the professional who now has something to offer. And know exactly where those moments are. Know exactly where your moments are to sell, to pitch, to offer, to serve. Know exactly where those moments are. And then when you step into it, you can just get in line. Like, okay, cool. Now this is where I'm supposed to serve. This is where I'm making my offer. This is where I'm, pointing people in a direction. And then when that moment has passed, all right, y'all, you're back with me. The program continues, So place your pitch in moments that make sense, so that when you step into it, it's a dedicated space for you to just do that, so that you don't blur the lines.
Yeah, that's really good advice. So basically, take care of your agenda, guys. Yes. Make sure that the speakers are, in order and everything, and the pitch goes aligned with what the sessions were as well. Like, it cannot be just out of the blue.
Yeah.
That's gonna cause friction, and we don't want friction. And confusion, because confused minds don't buy. So make sure that, you're doing what Sherhara just said. Mm-hmm. So how do we feel empowered through public speaking? Like, what are your best tips that, we could create mic drop moments? Because that's what they're here for, right? They want to know, how do I create this mic drop moments? Okay, Anna and Sherhara, we know what a host is, right? But how do we create that on stage, especially virtually, right?
Yeah. The key thing is, and y'all, if you're still hanging in there with this, write this down. If you got pen and paper, write it down. Be present. Be present. Like, even when I'm hosting things, I'm interviewing somebody, I'm still listening. I'm still I'm listening as if the message is for me. I'm listening as if I'm supposed to be getting something out of it. Not, okay, I'm the moderator, so what's my next step? Or, oh, I'm the host, okay, what we got going? No, I just asked this expert a question. Let me find the value in their response. Be present. Because then when you're present, you're going to hear for yourself, and then you can convey to the audience. Now, wait a minute. Did y'all get what she just said? Are y'all picking up what she just dropped right now? You're there to help continually connect the audience to the subject matter, to the experience. So if you're not present and you're more so thinking about presenting and being on, then you gonna miss all the good stuff. So if you want to, feel empowered, allow your own content, your own events, your own guests, what they say, their messages, allow those things to empower you. You ain't heard what they gonna say yet. They gonna speak, but you haven't heard it yet. So you then feel empowered by it. And then when you get something that speaks to you, share it with the audience. Point like the audience is behind me, but on the Zooms, y'all, did you hear that? A lot of times when I'm interviewing or I'm hosting, I take notes in the chat.
Oh, okay.
There was something that you just said, and I meant to bring that back up. And typically I keep, even for myself, when I'm listening, I'll take notes in the chat so that people are in the chat and they're reading. Everyone's reading, commenting, listening all at the same time.
Right.
And so when you say something and put it in the chat, the people are seeing that you're engaged, but you're empowering your audience to stay engaged, to stay listening. Did you get that, y'all? Did you get that? So you're almost a secretary to what's happening.
Yes. So, I see what you're saying. So basically pay attention to your experts. I mean, you brought them for a reason to your event, right? So what about
yeah, pay attention.
Pay attention to your experts. She just typed it in the chat, guys. You can't see it right now, but that's what she did. So that's what you have to do, right? Comment below, give your thought process as well of what the speaker just said, right? Reinforce what they just said as well, in case they made a point that's gonna help you transition to the next speaker.
Yeah.
That's also part of the moderating and the hosting, right? So, yeah. So, what else have we not considered though about hosting and all this?
I think there are two things that, well, okay, I'll say there's one thing that happens, and this is most people, and this is probably what you all may deal with, right? You all are in your zone when you're talking to your guests. You're in your zone when you're planning your content. You're in your zone when you're writing text and copy. You're in your zone when you're putting together, your email automations. You're in your zone when, like you have a lot of zone moments, okay, event producers. But when that camera turns on, sometimes you're like a deer in headlights, like, oh, okay, well, I'm so glad that everybody made it today. Today we're going, and then you lose your fire, you lose your gumption, you lose your passion, you lose your excitement. You a boss getting all these people together, and then somehow when the cameras turn on, you feel different. Am I right? Like,
yes,
I know y'all are watching.
It feels different.
You do. And so if this is you, then I should have told y'all this a long time ago. Y'all need to be making comments, even though, y'all watching this recorded. But, like if that's you, I don't know what it is about that trigger. And so many people have it where you're just kind of like, you go from being your assertive self to then feeling like, you get the sweat in your armpit and you kind of get like, all right, I'm on. All right. Okay. And then all of a sudden you're like, that ain't me.
Right? Yeah, and then you're palpitating and you're sweating and you're oh my God, the camera's on.
Yeah. And so, I'm not going to guarantee you that it's going to go away with, 5 tips or 5 steps. It comes from practice, continually showing up, and being aware that you may have an on trigger that turns you off from who you really are. Right? When it's time to turn on, sometimes we turn off ourselves. And I've said this before, if you feel like that's you, then remember that it's not about you. Take the pressure off of everybody's looking at me. Everybody's expecting this. Like you got a lot of work to do, right? But at the same time, in the moment, remember, and this is what being present really is good for, that it's about the people who are in the Zoom. It's about the people who you've invited as guests. You want everybody to feel comfortable. And so make it about their comfort and not your own. Ooh, yeah. I never said that before.
That kind of like hurt. I don't know. Some people are going to be like, whoa. But yeah, like it's true. It all comes down to our self-image. And we think, and I think that's the problem with the turning the camera on thing, because then we're like, oh, well, I'm in the spotlight. And not everybody likes the spotlight.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if they're introverts. They hate the spotlight.
And think about it. And I love that you said that, Anna, because when you feel like you're in the spotlight, consider it's not you in the spotlight, but what you're putting in the spotlight. Like the baboon from Lion King. Y'all remember the movie? And he took little Simba and put him up in the air. Baboon was in the spotlight, but the spotlight was not meant for him. It was for him to lift up little Simba. And that's when the crowd went wild. So when you're the host, what's the Simba you're supposed to put in the spotlight?
That's such a great analogy. Everybody's going to understand that. Yay. Love it.
And that is so funny because I'm like, what? Like, I kid you not. I literally came up with that. But, when you said spotlight, what really needs to be spotlighted? If you're in the spotlight, it just means that you're supposed to spotlight something else.
Ah, yes. And that's how we can remove the anxiety of being, it's not about us.
Yeah.
It's about them. And it happens on marketing too. Like I see it all over. And sometimes when I'm writing my own copy, I'm like, oh no, this is not about you, Andrea. Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Yeah.
So like you said, that it's really impactful because it makes everything flow better.
Mm-hmm.
And the content actually shines, because when we're creating virtual events and interviews and all this, right? If we're not experts yet, I mean, we could be experts in the topic, but we're not known online, right? So some people are not going to listen to us as the host. So it's better just to let the speaker run it with their content and then just moderate it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So how can we know? So you talked about two things. You said, okay, so if you're not good at hosting, get somebody to help you out. That is actually a really good advice when it comes to live events, not pre-recorded ones. But for live events, that's like really good, because I've been to events where you do everything, like the host does everything, the content, the everything. And then I've been to events with the next event that the same speakers did, right, with an MC, and it changed the atmosphere, right? So how do we, if we can't afford it, right? Because that's the thing. Sometimes MCs are really expensive because, I mean, they have to be very selective with their events that they choose. How do we get better without thinking about ourselves? Because I know, okay, so how do I stop thinking about myself? Okay, I get it. It's not about me, but how do I think about others?
Yeah. And I think that, you know, especially now that we're in the virtual space, everyone has a name tag on Zoom, right? Like you can scroll over people's, you know, little photo boxes, video boxes, and then you can see people's names. And it is, yes, about it not being yourself, but what's a practice? What are things that you can do in order to ground yourself back in that thought and call out people's names, you know, call out people's names. And this is going more so into like tactical things. When you're opening up for the day, when you're transitioning, take a moment, stop and say, who's got their video on? Let me see. I'm gonna give some shout outs right now. We got Carolyn's in the house. Carolyn, go ahead and put, you know, where you're watching from in the chat. Let's see. Let's do a roll call. All right. And Karen, I see you. Oh, that's beautiful wallpaper. Karen, your wallpaper is stunning. Where did you get that? West Elm? You know, so for a moment, you are just literally and kind of physically focusing on other people. You can see your audience. So connect with your audience. For people who have been vocal in the chat, say, you know what, I want to give it up to Kimberly. I've seen Kimberly commenting, taking amazing notes in the chat. Thank you so much, Kimberly. All right, so now we're gonna move on to our next panelist, our next interviewer, or you know, our next guest. So in a way, yes, you have to make it not about yourself. And if you're struggling to get out of your head, then just go ahead and make it real. Talk to some people.
Talk to some people.
Talk to some people, you know. If you've got 2 minutes, you can go to your audience. And this is about also, this isn't just about getting out of your head. This isn't just about messing with that trigger of being on and making it about your audience, but this is about engagement, right? Y'all know about engagement. You track your engagement numbers. You know, you get to talk to your people. So why would your event be any different? You know, and bring them into the event. Ask them questions. Hey, I've got 2 minutes. If anybody wants to share on verbally, what an aha moment or a gem or what they learned from our last speaker, put share in the chat, and I'll call on you, and then you can unmute yourself, and we would love to hear what you learned. And then
That's
people,
really good advice.
So really dig into how you can connect with people, how you could. So let's say, for example, if this was a physical event, like person to person, real life, and you had to take a break, what would you do? You go to the bathroom, and then you talk to people in the bathroom. We've been to conferences. The bathroom is one of the best places to meet people. I don't know what it is about the bathroom. I always make great conversation in the bathroom.
I think it's because we're more vulnerable.
Yeah. Or when people are going back and grabbing more coffee. We don't have those moments in the virtual space. So how do we create those touch points? Take a moment, stop, realize it's not about myself. If it's not about myself, who's it about? Oh, it's about these people. Oh, let me call on one of these people. Oh, there's Kimberly. Kimberly, you've been busy in the chat. Thank you.
Tap into their wisdom, not our wisdom.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really good tactical advice, because people are like, okay, I know what you're saying, but how?
Yeah.
Now you know how. Like, you just call on people, and that's true. And actually that creates community, and also I think it relaxes people as well. And a lot of people want to talk and they don't get the opportunity to talk. And when you call on them, they get really excited, and they create an environment and an energy that was not there. And I think that hosts, we had to take advantage of that to piggyback on that energy, to piggyback on whatever the attendee said.
Yeah.
So it can be better. That's so good. Thank you so much for all of this golden nuggets of wisdom. So tell us, some wrapping thoughts about public speaking, any tips to wrap this up, and also the gift you have for everybody.
Yeah, so I would say for me, I've been moving into this space where I believe that self-awareness is the most powerful part of showing up, right? Whether you're hosting an event, whether you're pitching a new product, whether you're pitching for funding, whether you're trying to persuade a gatekeeper, whether you're trying to differentiate yourself as a industry expert, as a business leader, like in all of those situations where whether it's a conference keynote, whether it's a panel, whether it's a podcast that you host or that you're a guest of, you want to show up and let the words that come out of your mouth match how freaking dope you are, right? You always want to leave these spaces and be like, yeah, I did that, right? And it begins with self-awareness, knowing who you are, stepping into that, embracing and exploring your insecurities, your doubts, your imperfections, your apprehensions, your inhibitions, your distrust, your suspicions of yourself, stepping into all of that. It's so empowering. And you then, after you've been aware of some of those very same things that you may be hiding from all of us, you just show up with much more ease, so be self-aware. And the thing that I pretty much offer, for those of you who are wanting to improve your public speaking skills, if you want the way that you speak to match your expertise and your excellence and, and your experience, and you want to show up more fully and be memorable and leave impact on people, I have a group coaching program. And Anna, you had mentioned it earlier. It's called Privilege. And I named it Privilege because many of us don't get to, and I know that I'm here in the United States, privilege is a thing where you're afforded access, opportunities, favor, a seat at the table, an opened door based off of how you were born into society. And many of us are not born into society with that privilege, right? So what do we do when we feel like we have to catch up, how do we level the playing field of privilege? How do you get your piece of the privilege pie? And I believe that being able to leverage our speaking skills and the way that we present ourselves is our way to get a piece of that privilege pie. And it's using a skill that we already had, that we were already born with. We just have to grow it. We just have to improve it. We have to feel more empowered by it. So that's what the Privilege Program is all about. We all want more favor. We all want more access. We all want more opportunities. You know, we want our ability to effectively communicate and express ourselves, to open up the professional doors that we so desire. And we also just want to feel good when we show up and speak. And that's what Privilege is all about. It's an 8-week group coaching program. And you can visit, I know that Anna will probably have the details. You can click on the link. Applications to the program are open now. And I would love to have a conversation with you and see if Privilege is a good fit for you. But I would say it's a good fit for you if you've ever been in a situation and you just felt like your words fell flat. If you want to speak with more confidence, credibility, and clarity, then Privilege just may be for you.
Definitely. If you want to have more security in the words that you speak, because sometimes, like you said, that we talked about this, when the camera turns on, we freak out.
Right.
It's happened to me. I still get nervous, guys. Don't worry about it. This is not just, it's not, everybody gets still the butterflies, but use the butterflies. So I will comment the link if you're watching on the Facebook group. I will put it in the chat. In the replays, it's going to be in the button, beautiful button below the video in our website. So if you have any questions, you can follow her on Instagram. Just look her name up and she's gonna pop up. Follow her. And also, if you guys have any questions, make sure that you drop them below. We're gonna try to get to all of them, hopefully. And if not, we're gonna try, I promise. I will see you guys in the next session. And remember that you have the power to become an irresistible leader on the virtual space, using the powers of public speaking, like Sherhara said. We gotta use this voice that we have. We gotta use it. So make sure that you do, and I will see you guys in the next session. Remember that there are meet and greets, Q&As, the bingo is going on, so make sure that you're participating inside the Facebook group so you get the most out of this event. I will see you guys in the next session. God bless you. Bye-bye.